Okay, thank you. And to stick with the Kerry Cassidy theme, we have another question, and this is from Stephanie, who said, "Hello, I watched Kerry Cassidy's interview with Miles Johnston last night. I found it somewhat disturbing, although I felt that Kerry was trying to calm the waters a bit. Interested to know if Simon had watched it and for the opinion of others. Thank you for all that you do, Stephanie."
Yes, I did watch it. And of course, I know Miles of old. That sounds terrible. I don't mean it like that. Miles has a wealth of knowledge. It really has. He's not just interviewed people, but he's been around phenomena that's occurred, and he's seen it with his own eyes and been aware of it. I don't generally make comment about people or individuals. He did make comment for me. He said something like, I made a comment about Petri dish, etc., etc. Everyone has their own view based on the way they interpret the information they receive. I've always thought that the human race was going to survive. It may not go as quickly. We just had these conversations, and not as quickly as we want. But we have to balance what we want with what the groundwork is, what the structure is, and how we can make that work. And some people are more inclined that the human race is doomed, that there's no point in doing anything, the bad guys have got us, and etc., etc. Now, I haven't ever felt that view, because I actually have seen a future that is much brighter than the future or the present that we have at the moment. So I do see a future where there is this Tesla technology. I do see the future where the truth about 9/11 on underground bases is brought out, but you don't see it all being splashed on the newspaper on Monday morning, which is what most people seem to think should or could happen. I do see it as part of a program to let everybody know what's happened, but in such a way as that the whole fabric of society is not going to collapse. So I do have this strong positive sense for the future, but at a speed that is not dictated by ourselves. Miles speaks his mind, and he's seen a lot of bad stuff. I don't think he'd mind me saying that. And he's interviewed a lot of people who have been quite dark, and perhaps he's realised that there's quite a strong force there that doesn't want to give up. I think that it isn't going to be the case, because I think the forces of good are greater than the forces of evil. And it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. From this perspective, that the human soul is quite powerful. And I was heartened when Miles did talk about the ability of the human consciousness to out-evolve certain evils. And I'll give you an example, that a number of diseases have been dropped on the human race, a number of poisons, and yet humanity appears to have evolved beyond them. The evil effect it was supposed to have was greatly reduced. I don't think that's because spaceships are landing and aliens are giving us help. I think it's just human consciousness is outperforming this lower density evil, which is always lower fourth dimension. So, I do have a strong faith that whoever created us, call them the Almighty, whoever created us, combined with our own determination, not just to survive, because an ant wants to survive. We have something more than an ant. But our wish to evolve into a more worthwhile life form, into a more worthwhile state of being. I think you combine the two, and then you outmaneuver all of this very primitive, negative fourth dimension. So it was nice to hear Miles speak. It was nice to hear Kerry speak. But I have my own opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, another point was at the end, towards the end of the interview, Miles and Kerry were talking about the need for people to recognize that they need to be the ones to save themselves, in terms of it's down to humanity. And it's the same point that keeps coming up again and again in different situations. It is down to we, the people, whatever country we are in, to be the force for positive change. And I think that's something that you and I are working every day to help do with the creation and expansion of connecting consciousness, and wanting to help get people together so people can start doing things to help and support each other on a small local level, but also on a countrywide level, on an international level. And this is why we wish to roll out certain projects to help humanity and the world.
Yeah, well, I've been going 11 years now, and obviously, Becky, you've been, an integral part of that in more recent years. I've always said, and those people who able to find the time and take the trouble to go and find it, I've always said, don't expect the 7th Cavalry to come and save you. And this is when I've addressed questions in a conference, in the days when you could physically go to a conference and you could have a few hundred people there and throw questions at you. And so I used to be asked that a lot. And although I'm British, I would refer to the 7th Cavalry and say, there's too many people wanting the 7th Cavalry to come and save humanity. It is down to us. There's a reason for that. If you want someone to heal and you come in, you do it all for them, A, they haven't understood what's happened, and B, that's fine. They can just sit back on a chair, and if they get sick again, you'll come and heal them. But if you actually work with them and you get them to do the lion's share of the work, they fully understand what the problem was, they can get to grips with it, and they help to heal themselves, which means they're emotionally bought into it, energetically bought into it. So they'll hopefully not allow that situation to occur again. So we shouldn't be looking for Palladians to land en masse in shiny spacecraft and come make it all nice for us so we can go back to work on Monday morning with a clean conscience. That just ain't going to happen. And also, to follow on from your theme, there have been a number of commentators who've been interviewed, and they say how bad things are, and that people have got to do more to help themselves, but they don't actually say what those things are, or they don't say what they're doing to help. They just sort of say how bad it is, and people have got to do more, and it's their fault. And if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Well, I set connecting consciousness up, and as I said, Becky, you are a very integral part of that. And we are doing things about that. We have a 60,000 membership. Our people in our groups meet and talk to support each other. They share links if they're online, and when they can physically meet up, they'll meet up. And that's one aspect of it. We've endorsed organic products that will help humanity. We've endorsed that. We've endorsed the 5G BioShield. We're looking at other technologies. Lots and lots of companies, come to Connecting Consciousness asking us to endorse their products because they want that spiritual backing. But if those products or those companies don't match up to the vision that I have and the vision that I put on Connecting Consciousness, we don't endorse them. We don't work with greedy people. We don't work with people who are making bombs and bullets in one room and then nice smelly liquids in the other room. We don't do that. So, Connecting Consciousness is doing something positively to actually help humanity. And, we are standing ready. We are hoping that we're going to be engaged with at some point in the not too distant future to be involved in some really exciting works. And the coordinators have more knowledge than other people, but some really exciting projects on the planet Earth, really exciting. And we want to play a part in that. And so I don't sit in my podcasts or my conferences telling everyone how bad they are, or, it's your fault, or this is going to happen and that's going to happen. What I'm doing is saying, This is personally what I and the coordinators around me are doing. This is what my 60,000 membership are doing. We are all trying not just to help ourselves, but to service to others, try and do good work for other people. So we're trying to make that effort because we do care. And I think that's how we should be judged, as an organization that is actually trying to bring hidden technologies to the planet. Look at the CBD oil that we've endorsed. You know, that is now legal, but for many, many years was only the elite used to have it. You know, and this is what we had on this planet, that the elite got everything and the rest of us got nothing. So we will, as an organization, push for that fair play. We will push for balance. We don't believe in elitism. So yeah, that's my answer. Thanks, Becky.
Okay, thank you. Cindy from California, USA says, "Dear Simon, Becky and all coordinators, thank you so much for all that you do for our group. I had an experience back in 2009 where I was awoken by a being that was pulling or installing something in the right side of my head, and I felt as if I was suffocating. I opened my eyes to see a figure standing right next to my bed that I now believe may have been a reptilian. It looked like the picture you had drawn and shown us at one of your interviews last year at the castle. That's the one with John.
Oh, yeah.
And it stood in kind of a Yul Brynner stance. I covered my face and yelled for a family member to come in, and once they arrived, I looked up and it was gone. I still have lots of pulling in the right side of my head since that time, and I'm wondering if you would know, or if it indeed was a reptilian, why would it pull on my head, or what it may have been installing or removing, and maybe why would it choose to be in my company, and could it come back?"
Okay. Of course, you think Yul Brynner, you think of the Westworld, but I think he's referring to The Sound of Music. Isn't that where he stands with his hands on his hips?
I don't know.
You're not going to know. I know, but I think looking at the energy here, and because I don't have sight of these questions, but I think there's a stance where Yul Brynner in The Sound of Music stands with his hands on his hips. Maybe it's something else. Right, we're talking non-physical implantation of your brain. If it's still hurting now, it wasn't taken out, it was put in. So it's still troubling you now, it must still be there. Not usually reptilians doing that. They don't usually do that. They have others do it for them, usually greys. But I suppose it's not impossible for them to stoop to manual tasks such as that. They are, after all, to my knowledge, the finest geneticists and microcircuitry group anywhere in the multiverse. They made that their own. And we know the true history of humanity, how the genetics largely came from a manipulation by reptilian type beings, and also the microchips. I mean, not what we know as microchips. I'm talking real microchips, nanochips multiplied by many, many times. This race, superbly clever at doing that, spiritually useless, unfortunately, spiritually empty, but technologically hugely advanced. So let that be a warning to the human race. Don't allow your technical expertise to outstrip your spiritual understanding. I've always said that, to me, the human race was a group of 5-year-old kids in the kindergarten all playing with loaded guns. And the reptilians took that to a much further stage. So without having a proper chat with you and asking you the right questions and having a quick look at that part of the energy field of your head, I can't go any further than that. You're not dead, so clearly it wasn't designed to kill you. It could be anything. It won't be monitoring. It will be something else. Now, before we leave this question, I've probably been one of the very few people to say this, and I don't understand why. You have to be incredibly careful. For all you know, whatever they've done is keeping you alive. I know people who would have had a heart attack, would have had a brain embolism, would just have keeled over and just gone. But they had an out of this world procedure, which is not detectable by civilian medical standards, which actually keeps them alive. And that's why I've always had caution. If someone has an implant, I've always said, don't just go and have it taken out. Have it thoroughly investigated first before you decide to take it out. Because for all you know, they could have looked and projected ahead and thought, well, this person's going to have a heart attack. And so we want to keep this person alive, therefore we do this. So we have to be very, very careful that any action that you take is the right action for you, and not something that would, affect you adversely. Okay, thank you.